I really believe that if you are eager, you're going to learn. It's going to be deposited into your spirit what you need to go out there today and take your next best step for your business. Also, too, that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So congratulations for continuing to be eager to learn and for being a student. But also, too, if you're on this line, I have to believe that you want this company to continue to be successful. And you want this opportunity to continue to get more vibrant because you have goals and God's laid dreams on your heart. And, you are part of a national area who, Kim's one of my dearest friends. And I know what makes her tick. And I know what she's been called to. And she's been called to excellence. And that means the women that she is called to lead are called to excellence. And the women who are in leadership positions are called to use this as their ministry, to invest their gifts and talents, not only in continuing on Mary Kay's traditions, but to continue on God's traditions and to build his kingdom and to support his kingdom. So when Kim asked me to teach this, I was honored, and I'm really excited to share with you. This may be a little different. Kim gave me permission to share my heart. So, I got up early this morning and was in prayer and study, and, this is what I was led to share with you. And, it's a little bit different than your maybe typical Mary Kay traditions go give class. We're going to cover the topics you probably expect to hear about the golden rule, etc., but it's going to go a little deeper than that because I feel like that's what I'm led to share with you. I know Veronica asked if I'd share a little bit more of an I story. I shared with you that I was warm booked in a mall 18 years ago to be a face model, had a facial, bought the basic skincare, went to a meeting, which was a quarterly awards, signed up that night because they had a showcase offer. I'm so grateful that Debbie Moore closed me that night because honestly, if they wouldn't have answered my questions and concerns and closed me that evening, I would have chickened out the next day. I did not have the $100 for the showcase. I had to write a post-dated check. I had no money on my Visa cards because I've always been able to spend more than I make, which is something that I am mastering and being called to better servanthood of finances. But I, at that time, had all my credit cards maxed out, and but I saw this as a vehicle to change that situation, as, again, a different way to live and work. So I did, put myself in the drawing for the showcase that night. Didn't win it, but continued on. Did a perfect start in my first 2 weeks and evaluated what I was making per hour with Mary Kay versus my job I had gone to college for, and resigned from my job and was engaged and got married, and my husband's job took us to Arizona. So I was in Cleveland for 2 weeks, and then Michigan for 3 months while waiting to get married, and then moved to Arizona to a small town of about 9,000 people. My husband was a Border Patrol agent and then a federal agent for 10 years, and we were in Arizona for 2 years, and that's where I really launched my business in a really small town, half non-English speaking, and I am not bilingual at all. I could kick myself right now for not becoming bilingual when I lived there. But I did all my classes with Spanish brochures and flip charts, and quickly realized that, it wasn't my sales ability that I did or didn't have, or my personality that was selling this product. I did Queen's Court of Sales there, first off because this was my job and I had to, because my husband was making $14,000 a year before taxes, and that wouldn't have even made our car payments. But also because that's, what we're supposed to do is sell products, and that's what I love doing. But I would flip, squirt, and smile, which you guys have been trained well by Gloria to flip, squirt, and smile, and collected money. And regardless if they understood what I was saying, their brochures were in Spanish. They loved how their face felt and looked. And if women like how their skin, looks and feels, you're going to have sales. So, Marilyn does a great job with product knowledge, but she's been on Queen's Court of Sales for 10 years. So when you're on Queen's Court of Sales for 10 years and you've done as many faces as she has, those words will roll off your lips just like they do hers. Don't feel like you can't have those sales without that knowledge. The knowledge comes from practice. And we learn those things through activity. So, one of the greatest gifts you could give yourself is focusing on that Queen's Court of Sales this year, and have your $600 a week in retail sales that are necessary for that to be from new faces, which will give you the Miracle set sold, and probably your Bumblebee also, your Be Focused. But I earned my car and did Queens Court sales in that town in Arizona the first 2 years, and then my husband was transferred to Georgia when I was in my first month of DIQ, became a director 3 months later in a town where there was no director, no meetings to go to, built my unit from skincare classes, taking potential recruits to classes, training my consultants through classes, and asking people to do practice interviews to hear about the business. And earned a Cadillac 9 months later in an area that people had said, oh, it's too small to build Mary Kay here. I am grateful that I had success in a smaller town than that, because I didn't believe what those people said. And be very careful, who you listen to, what you allow to be deposited into your heart and your head, because that was those own people's perceptions of what that area could support. And that area supported us into a Cadillac in 9 months and into a $450,000 unit club our first year, trips every year after that. And then we moved to Michigan 8 years ago, which is home. And at that stage, my husband decided that he no longer wanted to have to make choices that were against our value system for his job as a federal agent. And so he retired at 34, actually quit, which is what you do when you're 34. You're not really retiring, but it allowed us to move back to Detroit, which is where our parents are, and we wanted to raise our kids around grandparents and uncles and aunts. And now both of us work out of our home, and with an 11 and 13-year-old, that is such a blessing. I mean, really, very few Americans have the opportunity to ever live with God first, family second, and career third, because the career that they have that pays their bills, it has to be first. They have to revolve their faith time and their family time around that job or around their spouse's job. And Mary Kay truly does give us the opportunity to give our spouses choices and give ourselves choices to be able to set ourselves up in God's system of God first, family second, and career third. Something that took me a while to get into perspective, one of the foundational traditions that Mary Kay is built on is God first, family second, and career third. But let's talk about that for a minute, because that is our sense, and God's sense of God, family, and career, I think sometimes is very different from what the world looks at. Because again, if you're employed by someone else or your spouse is, you really can't do the God, family, career in that order, because 40 hours plus a week of yours or your spouse's time is dictated by someone else. And how much their time is worth, or your time is worth, is dictated by someone else. So what I have come to find, and what we're striving for, and I'm not saying, other jobs are bad, or, they don't serve a purpose. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just showing you, I think it's easier if you know what the end result is supposed to look like and can look like, that it gives you a format to look for and to run with. And, God, family, and career, a life that is truly based on that. Mary Kay always said, in that order, everything works, and outside that order, nothing works. And, your God time it's your relationship with God. It's your personal relationship and your personal time with God. It's not your time behind church walls. I think in our society, especially in America, we've come to believe that, the God part is how much time you spend at church. It's a very works mentality. And you know what? There's a lot of good work to be done at a church, but I remember being so freed when I heard, I think it was Molly Morrow or Mickey Ivey, one of the, foundational nationals with Mary Kay, said from the stage that, she said, ladies, there are more women to reach outside the church walls than there are in the church walls. And if you're in Mary Kay, you're called to reach them at your skincare classes and at your facials and as directors at your meetings. You may be the only Bible some people read. And that really freed me up, because I have come to find that this is my ministry. This is where I'm supposed to be using my gifts and talents. And, sadly, I'm saying this without pride, but sadly, I've seen more women saved, myself included, through their connections in Mary Kay than I have seen saved in some churches in a whole year. And so, your time with God is your relationship with God, and not your time in church walls. And again, I'm not saying quit anything you're doing in church. I've always supported my local church body too. But may give you a different perspective of how, you're investing your time to line up with, God's way of life. Family is your immediate family. It's if you're a child still in a parent's home, it's your parents, brothers and sisters. If you're an adult, it's your spouses and or kids. So that's your family. And then career is your Mary Kay business and or your other job. But all ounce, other than your time with God, your immediate family, and your Mary Kay business and your other career, all ounce is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And that is the ultimate. It may, when you come into this, depending on, how long you've been, investing time, how you've been investing time, where you're coming from faith-wise, it may take longer or shorter to line your life up like this, but no, as a national sales director, this is what God calls us to, because I don't believe that I can mentor other women effectively unless I'm living this myself. I think that's a huge part of Mary Kay integrity and character, is that when you get into a leadership position, I have to, as a $1 million director in national, I have to have a more balanced lifestyle than the woman out in corporate America that may be making the same amount of money, but she's working 60 to 80 hours a week with the commute time on her employer's schedule, with vacations that her employer approves or around her coworkers. Not having any real true job security because something could change in a second with her promotability or her company's, financial position. So I have to be able to offer something more desirable so that my consultants want to continue to invest time into this, because those of you who are on the line who are new or building your business and working towards this, it's always harder to get to a place than it is to maintain at a place. So that process of getting your life reordered is going to take more time and cause some changes, and sometimes changes are painful and the growth that comes with it. But I guess I want to paint for you that this is what our company's built on. This is what we're called to live, and it is a wonderful, wonderful way of life. The process of getting here sometimes doesn't look how you think it may, time-wise. It may not go as fast as you think. It may not be as easy as you think, personal growth and spiritual growth-wise, but I guarantee you it's worth it. Because after seminar this year, when we, I had my family with us and debuted on stage as a new national area, I sat there thinking, I don't remember ever being happier or more just at peace, knowing that the last 18 years I wouldn't change anything about them. A lot of people are coming in and you can become a national 3 years from when you start, or 5 years. But I honestly wouldn't change anything about my journey. I, believe that along the way I did learn every year a little bit how to better balance God, family, and career for myself. And that's an individual thing for you. You have to go to God and ask Him how you're supposed to be investing your time. It can't be to please your director, your recruiter, your national. If you are pleasing God, He's going to bless the efforts, and believe me, everyone's going to be happy. When we start rationalizing our way in and out of goals and using the God, family, career as a crutch, then that's when I think we get in trouble. But if you truly are going to God and keeping it God, family, career, how I outlined, I guarantee you're going to be blessed. You're going to, everyone involved is going to be happy. And in the end, I think the person that we most want to have happy with us is God. That in the end, you can stand before God and say, He can say, good and faithful servant, you invested your gifts and talents in direct proportion to what I gave you, versus not doing it because, of your husband or kids or director or recruiter or area you live in or other job, etc. That's what I strive for, is that audience of one. And when I was a new director, Mary Kay we got to go to her home and be trained by her, and she gave all of us a dollar bill with Matthew 25:14 on it. And that's the parable of the talents. And unfortunately, I didn't think much about it for the first 10 years of my directorship. And about 5 years ago, I was really convicted on what I was teaching my people, and that I wasn't really living that out myself. Meaning that, I was holding back on really throwing my heart across the line and, becoming a $1 million director and stepping up to the plate for what dreams had been laid on my heart because I was rationalizing that, oh, well, I can't live with God, family, and career and be a $1 million director because the people who are $1 million directors are just sacrificing too much of their family time and too much of their marriage time, and that's just not right. I look back, and I was being so judgmental, and I was also, too, giving Satan a huge foothold to keep me out of God's will because, when I just got down on my hands and knees one morning when that became clear to me and said, okay, why do I think that if God's all about family and all about, your relationship with Him, that He would call any of us to a goal that would be at a compromise of either of those? Those things don't line up. And so, I realized that if He's called me to do something, if He's laid a dream on your heart and you're on this call to be a sales director this year, if He's laid on your heart to do Queen's Court of Sales, Queen's Court of Recruiting, Triple Star, whatever it is, I guarantee you have the gifts and talents to do it. And I guarantee you, God knows the family you have. He knows the health issues you're dealing with. He knows the dramas that are going on in your life. He knows. He absolutely knows. And He knows also, too, that you can do it. And on the other side of it, you are going to be very clear that you were called to do this and that God is faithful as long as you're obedient. So, I know that is something I've been called to as a ministry to, call women to, use your gifts and talents in direct proportion to what God's called you to. And don't, worry about what anyone else's balance looks like, what, that it's supposed to be equal amounts of God, family, and career in every single hour, every single day. You go to God daily. How am I supposed to be investing my time? Who am I supposed to be investing my time with? And He really will take care of the rest. Everything in retrospect will make sense. Let's talk about the golden rule. We've talked about the God, family, and career. The golden rule is something that Mary Kay established this company on, to treat other people as you want to be treated yourself. And, that means, and these are pretty common things that you've, I'm sure, heard before. If someone in public asks you for a product, you're out warm booking, you have your Mary Kay pin on, and someone says, oh, I need a creamy cleanser or a 3-in-1. Your first response needs to be, who is your consultant? Because obviously if they know about the product line, they probably have a consultant. So you want to refer them back to their consultant. I do want to put a little caveat here, though, that just because someone has given someone a card or has them on PCP, that doesn't dictate ownership or territory. I really believe that just because you've given someone a card, if you haven't called them back in a timely fashion, or you've just gotten their name and number and put them on PCP, if you haven't facialed them, you have not sold them any products, preferably skincare, or at least, demoed product to them somehow and gotten them on skincare, they're not really your customer. So, I think the golden rule, the two sides of treating other people how you want to be treated yourself is treating other consultants how you want to be treated. I always ask myself, if I was in that other consultant's shoes, how would I want this to be handled? But also the customer's shoes. If a customer is given, is on someone's PCP, but then someone's offering them a facial, if you were the customer, what would you prefer? As a customer, I want to be facialed. I want to I want a personal beauty consultant. I want something different than a mailer that I'm ordering online or in the mail, or going to the store and picking out stuff that, from someone that I don't have any relationship with. So, I see sometimes consultants get all uptight about, well, she was on my PCP, so she's my customer. Your customer is someone who you facialed, either in person or through samples, and is on our product, and preferably your strongest customers are your skincare customers. But, if someone in public asks you for a product, you want to ask them who their consultant is and refer them back. We all know that you'll find Mary Kay orphans that don't have customers, and we're all excited about those because then you have a new customer, and that is pretty easy. I remember Cheryl Steinman saying, she who lasts the longest wins. And that's true. You last in this business and get a reputation for being a consultant that takes great care of their customers. You really will, have a tremendous customer base and a loyal one. If you want to, in coaching the hostess, coach her not to invite guests that have consultants. When you're pre-profiling the guest, you ask them what's been your class, if they have a consultant or not. Because if they do, I want to share with them that, you're welcome to come and try the products, but you will be filling out a sales ticket and then calling your consultant to service you. If I then tell the hostess, you need to find someone to replace her because she's not going to count as one of your people if you need 6 non-Mary Kay users for your hostess credit, if that's part of the hostess program. If people get to the class and you didn't know that they had a consultant and they do, then you can use the sales of that person that one time to count towards the hostess's sales. So those sales, you would service her that one time because you didn't know about it in the pre-profiling of the guest and in the coaching of the hostess. If those two things are done full circle, very infrequently will you have people at your class that have other consultants. But if you do, or when you do, you can sell products to those people that one time. You let that consultant know that I'm just, selling it to you this one time so as to help Susie's hostess credit, but I'm not going to keep your profile card on file, or I'm not going to put you on my mailing list because you are someone else's customer and I would like you to go back to her for future servicing. If someone, has a consultant, you refer her back, and if she has a consultant, she is not a recruit's prospect. Even if that consultant has never talked to her about the marketing plan. Mary Kay always said if someone has a consultant, that is who recruits her. So regardless if she has been given marketing info or not, she is referred back to her consultant. Even if you're the person that got her excited about the business and planted the seeds, sometimes we plant seeds we harvest, and sometimes we plant seeds that someone else harvests. But what I believe is that we're working from a huge abundance factor, and I know that you guys believe that too. We only have 10% of the skincare market, which means that 9 out of 10 women are still using the wrong brand every single night. We are not working from scarcity. We do not have to argue over any one face, any one recruit. Honestly, none of them is worth doing things the wrong way. What I believe is that what you sow, you get back tenfold. And so no one customer, no one consultant is worth doing anything the wrong way. Regardless if you're in your last week of DIQ, your last hour of DIQ, regardless, it's not worth it because what'll happen. If there are any issues with the golden rule, because, again, we're in a gray area where it's not always black and white, and I understand that. There are going to be, issues out there that require some conversation to happen. I encourage you to handle it in a biblical fashion. If conversation needs to happen, you go to the appropriate person to have that conversation. For instance, if there's recruiting issues or customer issues, you're a consultant, so you go to the other consultant. You don't go to the prospective recruit. You don't go to the prospective customer. You deal with the other consultant directly. And if that does not work, then it goes from director to director. Your director deals with the other director. And then if it can't be solved at that level, it goes from national to national. It does not go from consultant up to national. It does not go from consultant to prospective recruit. It says in the Bible, if we have an offense with someone, we go directly to that person. You don't tell anyone else about it. You go directly to that person. And, again, I think if we're truly living by the golden rule and we'll handle things how we would want other people to handle them, I'd want someone to come to me and say, okay, so-and-so said blah, 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 and she really she wants to recruit with us because of blah, 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 or with her because of blah, blah, blah. And as a director, you probably know how your consultant has been servicing that customer. And if I have a consultant who doesn't have inventory and there's a customer who wants to deal with someone that does have inventory, I don't blame that customer. Honestly, I think that's the go-give thing, is to turn her over to the consultant who has inventory, because if you're putting yourself in the other person's shoes and treating them how you'd want to be treated as a customer, you want to get products on the spot. You want to get products when you need products. Also, too, sometimes a customer will choose to deal with someone because a coworker starts Mary Kay, or a neighbor starts Mary Kay, or a family member starts Mary Kay. I believe that we should release those customers and not hold on to those people so tightly, because, again, as a customer, if my coworker has inventory and sits right next to me versus a consultant that is mailing products to me or across town or doesn't keep products on hand, so I have to wait a week or two to get it, golden rule says that, if that's where that customer wants to do business, then I'm going to release her to do business there, and I'm going to go out and find someone else to do business with myself, because there's 9 out of 10 women still washing their face at the wrong line. And, I know that that's the right thing to do, because that's treating that customer by the golden rule. Also, too, I'd recommend that if you're on the line and you don't have full inventory on your shelf, that within the next 30 to 60 days, that either you get your business financed up to that level, or you sell to reinvest up to that level and bite the bullet and get it done. Because having products on hand, I think, is a major part of running your business by the golden rule. Because I believe as customers, that's how I want to be treated. When I run out of my mascara, I gave birth to my kids with mascara on. I am not going to be able to wait a week or two. And so, I'm not trying to be mean by taking business away from one consultant or the other, but I'm going to have to deal with the consultant who has products. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to the Lancome counter. I'm going to go back to the mall when I'm there today, or to Meijer's when I'm there today. So if you are not dealing with full inventory, that's something that I'd really commit to, because I think that is something that gives you the freedom to truly work, by the golden rule with your customers and your consultants. Obviously, it goes without saying that golden rule extends with our customers and our recruits, that, when we tell someone that we're going to do something, that we do it. And that starts off with, when you meet them, when you warm book people, you call them. I've talked to consultants who have stacks of names from their fish bowls or from warm booking that they've never called. And, we're not calling because we're thinking about ourselves. And that's definitely not golden rule. Think of the people on the other end that put their name in a fishbowl and no one's called them. Or someone who was warm booked and no one's called them. I think one of the saddest examples of this that I've heard is a woman who was at a meeting as a face model, and she shared that, 2 times over the last few years she's been warm booked in a mall. She didn't say warm booked. She's been asked to be a face model with Mary Kay in the mall, and no one's called her back. And she really felt like they had decided that she wasn't pretty enough to be called. I mean, my heart just wilted upon hearing that, because our job is to create an environment where women's lives are enriched. And I know very well that the consultant who didn't call her, I have no idea who it was, but I mean, I'm sure that it wasn't done vindictively or wrong-spirited, but it was done very self-focused, I guarantee you, because that person was scared, or they just didn't follow through, lack of discipline, laziness, whatever it was. But whatever it was, it wasn't golden rule. And so I encourage you, if you get someone's name and number, call them back. Do it, follow through with it how you say, whether it's following up on the product or calling to be a face model. Granted, we can't reach people a lot of times, but most people have caller ID now or a voicemail. If you've tried a couple times and you can't reach them, leave a message so at least they know that you recontacted them and you are a woman of your word. Doing Mary Kay with excellence is not necessarily doing it 40 hours a week. It's whatever you do it with excellence, and you're treating that other person how you'd want to be treated. If you put fish bowls out there, contact the names that express, the interest according to, what type of marketing information you have asked for. If you say that you're going to call at a certain time or drop products off at a certain time or a day, you do it. Shy of a national emergency happening, you do it. Even if it's an inconvenience for you, even if you overstack your plate, even no matter what. You follow through on what you say that you're going to do. My heart wilting doesn't even describe how I feel when a customer says, I gave someone money and I never got products. That makes me nuts, like nuts. I can't even pull it all together after that. Because, that adversely affects all of us. I encourage you, if you run into situations where someone has not upheld the golden rule in Mary Kay or followed through, do whatever you can to make it right with that person. I'll give that person the product. She can call Mary Kay, and I think Mary Kay Corporate will give her the product. And, she can give that person's, the consultant's name and number that, didn't follow through on their word. But I will always do whatever I can, even if it costs me. I'll write it off as a tax deduction to make sure that person walks away with a different taste in their mouth about Mary Kay. Even if they don't continue to use the products, I don't want them to have that perception of what we're about, because on the majority, that's not what we're about. That's just a people issue. People can screw up anything. And, they can screw up the Christian faith. They definitely can screw up a business like Mary Kay. But we truly are the only Mary Kay that someone will ever see, and we may, like I said in the beginning, be the only Bible that they ever read. I really want to cover just 2 other topics quickly before we close, and I know that this is going over time, so if you have to click off, I totally understand. But I feel very fortunate that I got to work with Mary Kay, and when I think of Mary Kay Ash herself as a person, she used to tell us a lot. We may be the only Bible that they ever read. And 2 words that I think are synonymous with Mary Kay are integrity and character. And I believe that you couldn't have the influence that she's had on millions of women's lives around the world without these foundations as her principles. I see these as character traits that are missing in a lot of our society today, unfortunately. But I do believe that if you've been drawn to our Mary Kay culture, they're part of who you are. This is part of what you're drawn to. It's part of what I was drawn to, even though I couldn't specify it that night at the guest night. They're part of who you are, but I want to talk about these traits for a couple of minutes so that you can really appreciate the heritage that you're a part of and I am so proud to represent Mary Kay Cosmetics. Really, when people say, oh, do you still do Mary Kay? I'm like, yeah. I'm picking up a $60,000 car in a couple months and, have been able to retire my husband and just was awarded the Millionaires Club, which means I've made over $1 million in commissions since I started my Mary Kay business. I think I'm going to start it. I'm going to keep doing this for, a little while longer. But I realize that they just don't understand the heritage that we come from. And I can't imagine being associated with any other company. Let's talk about character. Character is who you are when no one's looking. And Christ really is the model for perfect character. A desirable character is molded by God's standards, not human ones. Characters develop through challenges. Characters develop through suffering. And characters develop through temptation. Really choose wisely who you listen to in your Mary Kay business and in life, who you pick as your buddies, and what you read. And know that you teach what you know and you attract who you are. And that was a scary reality check for me at one stage of my business. You teach what you know and you attract who you are. And I realized at a stage of my business I needed to do some personal growth and spiritual growth because of the people that I was attracting were who I was. There was something wrong. I needed to make some changes. Another thing to ponder possibly, since character is who you are when no one is looking, who are you in Mary Kay when no one is looking? I hear consultants and directors share with me as they are national by email or phone in their discouraging times or learning curve times or frustrating times that they may just quit Mary Kay, that maybe they're not supposed to be doing this. And I know by the time that they are saying that to me that they've said that to themselves many times, that they're quitting Mary Kay. And if that's who you are in the dark, you're lukewarm in person, because you can't have your heart thrown across a line that you are in. I have no doubt that Marilyn is in Mary Kay and that she is totally sold out on this product and this opportunity. She's not lukewarm. So she attracts 85 women to buy miracle sets from her because she is not lukewarm. I don't think God's going to bless you with customers for life and with recruits that want to be sales directors and nationals if you are contemplating quitting when no one else is around in your heart. So, ponder that. Who are you when no one else is around in your Mary Kay business? What's your stance? And, you're better off to be out than lukewarm, to be honest with you. And I'm not trying to get Kim Solari to quit, but, I guess I'm calling you to be, throw your heart across the line and walk on water, because if you're on this line, you're not called to be lukewarm. You wouldn't be on here if you were lukewarm. Let's look at integrity in closing. And I looked up integrity this morning in a Bible application cross-reference, and it is listed with dependability, honesty, and trustworthiness. And it says, what does the Bible say about integrity? Integrity is a long-term character trait. and they use Joshua 14, 1 through 15 as the Bible verse, and they're talking about Caleb, who was faithful from the start. And he, God promised him the promised land, and 45 years later, the land was given to him. Integrity is a long-term character trait. I see people come into this business and have dreams planted on their heart when they start this business, and then a week later they're quitting. Because a class didn't go how they wanted it to, or a recruit is, not doing what they say they were going to do, or their director position isn't going how they want it to go, and so they're bailing out. And none of us on this line have been in this 45 years yet. So God's time frame is so much different than ours, especially in the United States where we're so microwaved. But integrity is a long-term character trait. Integrity is being what we say we are. You can look to Psalm 25, 1 through 22 for that. And one of the most difficult tests of integrity is wealth. And I think this is interesting, being in Mary Kay, because, you guys are from the Wealthy Walker area, and in Mary Kay we have a tremendous opportunity to accumulate, earn wealth, and then contribute wealth back into God's kingdom. You want to look at Luke 16, 1 through 15, but our integrity often meets its match in money matters. And Mary Kay is definitely a money matter. God calls us to be honest even in small details we could easily rationalize away. Like, things with customers, just hostess credit, little things. Heaven's riches are far more valuable than earthly wealth. But if we are not trustworthy with our money here, no matter how much or how little we have, we'll be unfit to handle the vast riches of God's kingdom. Don't let your integrity slip in small matters, and it'll not fail you in the crucial decisions either. And again, going back to the Matthew 25:14, I think that God will bless you in direct proportion to what you're doing with what you have been given. And to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that is exciting, though, because you guys are all in the position to much is given, much is expected. You're in store for tremendous blessings this year, because I know the leadership that you're under with Kim. I know the covering you have. I know the direction you're headed. And, I'm thankful that you guys let me share on the line this morning. I hope that between your product knowledge and this information, that you are just inspired to go out there and make this an awesome day and a setup for just the best month that you've ever had in your Mary Kay business. And you really walk with your head high, that you're proud of the company that you represent and the opportunity that you represent, because miracles really do happen because of the foundations that this company is built on. Let me close with these statements on commitment. It says, commitment is what transforms a promise into reality. It is the words that speak boldly of your intentions, and the actions which speak louder than the words. It is making time when there is none, coming through time after time, year after year after year. Commitment is the stuff character is made of, the power to change the face of things. It is the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. You guys, thank you so much for being on the line. I hope this was helpful, and I enjoyed sharing with you. Thank you very much.